do I maintain work-life balance? Honestly, I've taken really a deep dive into what this like post-COVID world looks like, what the landscape really is going to look like. And so some of you leaving toxic work environments or maybe working remote, we really have to think about, how COVID impacted. What I want all of you to think about during this conversation is, what does work-life balance really mean to you? It can mean so many different things. And we're navigating, the desire for more remote work. And that may not be you. You may want to be in a building, working with people and building teams and doing all those amazing things. In fact, some of you might be craving that if you've been working remote for some time. But you do have to think about this stuff, because obviously this is on your mind. And this is some of your biggest fears, ending up in a situation where you're bulldozed. At some point, when you aren't doing the things that you need, like on a soul level, to recover, to recoup and do all that, we do have to say, that's on me. That personal responsibility part is such a big piece. And sometimes we just don't want to face that. It was me that ran myself into the ground. And then we definitely don't want to be a contributor to a toxic workplace by balling it all up. We want to come from a strong place of leadership in that way. Even on my worst days, what I mean by worst is my most stressed out, emotional, calendar stretched to the max, I still will force myself to at least do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, even if that's just laying on my bedroom floor, focusing on my breath, because your breath is such an anchor to the present moment. And once you get out of the present moment, that's when you're on your hamster wheel. Community, guys, we all have to encourage each other to take care of ourselves. So if you're part of a team, you're building a team, always be pushing that culture into people as well, and then be the example. I do feel like many of you have ran yourself into the ground over the years. And so of course you're like scared, oh my God, am I going to keep doing this? Am I going to get pulled back into this? This is how you're going to stop that in its tracks right now. Just make a decision right now. Just write down the word boundaries. It's so important. I've gotten to know the consequences so well. I've been in such a deep relationship with my consequences that it's just a non-negotiable. We don't realize it's happening in these little moments in our life. And then we forget again, and we do it again, and then we forget, then we reel it in. And it's just this process of building this is going to be a habit. This has to be a new habit of yours. And then you have to collect evidence as to why it's really serving you on such a high level. Every time I sit down and I do that 20-minute breathing and stretch my neck out, I get up and I'm just man, that was so freaking worth it. When my brain tried to talk me out of it a million times, I don't got time to go do this. I don't have time to do this. And now I'm to the point where it just comes natural. So you do have to put in the work to build this habit and to build this mindset and to build this lifestyle and be a walking model of this for yourself and others. This is equally as important as changing your thoughts and all the other things that we do here. And you can feel good at. Just bring it back to yourself. And when you're in the driver's seat and you know that you're in control of that, it should relieve some of that pressure. So instead of saying oh my gosh, all these people are going to take advantage of me, say, hey, no, I'm going to be in the driver's seat of making these decisions for me in my life. Work-life balance starts to come more naturally when you are pursuing and working in something that you're passionate about. So I always want everybody to stop and be aware and make sure that what you are pursuing is what brings you fulfillment and passion. Or you tend to lose that work-life balance pretty quick because you start pouring yourself into something that just drains you, not even interesting to you. And you'll feel so drained, and then you just can't find balance. Everybody handled this pandemic differently emotionally. I don't know how much that is impacting people, but I think people are genuinely scared that they're going to lose a certain level of freedom because they got a taste of what balance feels like. And some of you might be ready to run off and go back to the office, which I don't blame you there either. I think there's going to be something very interesting that we see when we start messing with people's freedoms now. When it comes to this work-life balancing, because when you're working at home, you get to maybe whip up a healthy meal, you get to go for that walk. Whereas if your day is really stacked and you've got to commute and you're going to and from the office, it's a little more challenging to find that balance then. And I have become a little obsessed with kind of studying what I see with the psychological desire and impact of remote work. So yeah, it's really interesting. What does freedom mean to you? When it's time to go out there and get that job, you're not going to be falling into depression and not knowing why. Because guys, again, this is all about awareness. Well, if you're sitting in a remote job and you don't even have awareness that it's the fact that you're not around other human beings and that's why you're depressed. Asking the hard questions, I'm sure it goes into this in the book, whatever, you have to ask yourself hard questions about yourself. It's like you have shadows within yourself and you need to shine a flashlight on, what's there? There's more to me here. And then ask again. And then once you have that answered, you ask another question.